28 years later is the third movie in the franchise that began with Danny Boyle's 28 Days Later and was followed up by 28 Weeks Later. This is my review for the recent movie. Danny Boyle has returned as director and as producer for 28 Years Later. Alex Garland returns. He was the writer for 28 Days Later and an uncredited writer in 28 Weeks Later. So, about a month and a half ago, I watched all these movies, the first two, kind of got back into the series because I knew this one was coming out. And I really liked 28 Weeks Later. I thought that was the strongest one. And now, after seeing this movie, not much has changed. I will say that when it comes to 28 Years Later, there are a couple of really interesting ideas. The movie wasn't afraid to kind of try something a little bit new that we don't see very often. I don't want to tell you what it is because it would be a spoiler, and I feel like that's a scene that was really memorable in the third act, and the second act, really. And it's also very gross. This movie, like a lot of zombie movies are very gross and disgusting, but the direction they went in after 28 Weeks Later, to me, was the most interesting thing about the movie going into it, because it's been years now. How is the world looking after the events of the previous two movies? Did the world actually figure out how to stop the virus? Did the world actually figure out what to do about all this? And it turns out that the answer is not really. Not really. The opening scene of this movie was especially gripping, very powerful, and there were a few emotional scenes in the film that I thought were truly emotional, especially near the end. Like, there's a lot of really powerful stuff here. And really the whole crux of the film is understanding that death is a part of life. You know what I mean? Like, death is the end of life, but it's also something that every person has to face. It's the one thing that we all have universally in common, that we are not immortal and we will eventually pass on. This movie follows Spike, played by Alfie Williams. He's a 12-year-old kid who has to learn how to survive in the world and learn how to use his bow and arrow and really figure out how to maneuver through the world that has these zombies / rabies. Like, it's not like the traditional zombie. These zombies in the 28 Days films are a bit different because they can spit on you and get you sick. And there was a plot thread from the previous movie, 28 Weeks Later, about how some people are born with a natural immunization to it. And I was surprised. I don't recall them mentioning any of that here in this film. So Jodie Comer plays Isla. She's basically very, very sick. They try to make her the heart of the movie, and there are scenes in the movie that really show that she's a nurturing person. And so later on in the movie, tragedy strikes the crew, and it's very, very powerful. Aaron Taylor Johnson, he's kind of I thought he was gonna be the main character, but the story really focused more on Spike than anything. This is, of course, Spike's father. I thought the most interesting character was Dr. Ian Kelson, played by Ralph Fiennes. We don't really see him until a little past halfway through the movie. It's about a 2-hour movie. And he's somebody who has been a survivor of the outbreak for a long time. He's somebody who seems to tactically know what to do. And he's also somebody who, because he's a doctor, is able to determine different diseases in people, and that comes into effect in the film. There is a subplot about that. So the thing about the movie is there were a lot of scenes that I thought were very interesting, very graphic. There's a lot of interesting choices that Danny Boyle went with when it comes to the visuals of the movie. However, to be honest, I did not like this movie. A lot of the movie drags, a lot of the movie seems unfocused. I think it tries a bit too hard to kind of mess with your head because of the strange cutaways and edits and this just things about the movie that I think Danny Boyle thought were going to be unique. And they are unique. Don't get me wrong. They are unique. But to me, it kind of took me out of the film. You know, I was watching it and there were just parts where I felt they needed to speed the plot along. I feel like this movie could have been 90 minutes if you cut out sort of a lot of the slow parts. Now, understand that there's a difference between boring slow and building up tension. There were definitely a few scenes in this movie that were supposed to be slow to build up that tension for when we finally see the attack. However, there was also many times in this movie where it didn't do that and it was just taking its time. The movie is very dreary, very, dark. It is a post-apocalyptic film like the previous two. You know, you see a little bit of it at the beginning, but you rarely see anything that even resembles a normal world. That's not what's going on here. This is a world that's been ravaged by a virus that has made humans into these like rabies infected zombies, and the problem has not been resolved yet. In fact, you find out how much the virus spread in the previous 28 years. We really are living in a post-apocalyptic world in this movie. I mean, we really, really are. It seems more often than not that there's no hope for humanity and that they should just eventually give way to the virus, but you still got some people fighting, and that's important. Now, the ending of this movie I felt was, I didn't like it. It sort of came out of left field, and it felt like there was more left to do. It felt like there was another movie. And there is another movie. I found this out after I finished watching 28 Years Later, that this is only part one. It's got a sequel coming out called 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, which is coming out in January. This one's directed by Nia DaCosta, not by Danny Boyle. So that's going to be the next one. And apparently there's one more after The Bone Temple. So we will see what happens. I'm still going to go see the 28 Days Later Bone Temple movie. 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple movie in January. Even though I did find this one to be very disappointing. It's a decent date movie, but if I were you, if you're a fan of the 28 Days Later series, like if you're a super hardcore, you're going to go see it. If you just want to see a good zombie flick, there's plenty of options out there you can watch on streaming. Plenty of classic movies to go to that I would put above this one. If you're looking forward to seeing this one and you're kind of light on cash, I would for certain just wait for streaming. That's just me being honest with you. This movie's a big disappointment. Hopefully it'll set up interesting stuff for the sequel, but that remains to be seen. So those are my thoughts on 28 Years Later. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks as always, and take care of yourself and each other.